try to answer the question, why won't my car start? Now, you notice I'm kind of bundled up. It's supposed to snow here today in Texas. So yes, we do get all 4 seasons. So the basic issue with the car to run is it has to have air, fuel, spark, timing, and compression. The reason I mention that is you need to try to narrow down what might be your problem so that you're not wasting your time. For example, air is probably not your problem unless you've got something blocked off that's not allowing the air to go through. Probably more likely having a problem with fuel, timing, compression, or lack of spark. So we're going to try to talk about all of these issues and keep this video as short as possible. Now, if your symptom is that the engine cranks and cranks and cranks and cranks but doesn't start, my first thought would be that perhaps this fuel pump shutoff has been triggered. Some of them are more sensitive than others. It's supposed to only shut off when you have a wreck, but obviously if you hit a bad enough bump or something, it could trigger as well. That's designed to keep the fuel pump from spraying fuel all over the scene of an accident. For example, if you have a bad damage in the front, you may have open fuel lines, and if the fuel pump is spraying, 100 gallons an hour of fuel, obviously you run the risk of bad fire or explosion or something. So that's why this is here. It's designed to cut off your fuel pump. Some of you may not realize, but these modern fuel injected cars, the fuel pump just spits fuel constantly. It's not triggered by your pressing the gas pedal. So like I said, in a wreck, the fuel pump would just keep spraying fuel, and if there's an open fuel line somewhere, that fuel is going to go spraying out. So like I said, if you're cranking the car and it's cranking fine and no abnormal sounds, but it's not starting, I would check there, and then you just press the button on top to reset it. Mine's not triggered, so there's no click there, but that may solve your problem and it may start right up. Probably the most common cause for your car not starting would be battery related. This would most likely present itself as when you turn the key, either nothing happens or a very weak crank happens, followed by it may make like a clicking noise in rapid succession, lights may dim, and so forth. If you don't have a multimeter, I highly recommend that you get one. Harbor Freight gives them away all the time for free, so costs should not really be an issue. However, if you're going to do a lot of do-it-yourself, you'll find that a better multimeter will certainly pay off. So you see this battery is kind of weak. It's at 12.05 volts sitting here. Part of that is because it's right around New Year's, it's cold, and the car has sat for several days that I didn't go to work over Christmas, so I need to hook this up to the battery charger. But it's still cranking and starting right now. I would expect if you're having battery problems, you wouldn't even get 12 volts. Now to see if your alternator is working, you hook up the multimeter. You see now I'm at 14.48 volts. If your alternator is failing, you'd probably get a much lower reading on there. So failing alternator would be you're able to jump start the car, however it won't stay running once the jump start is removed. And like I said, you see a lower voltage on here. And I will tell you, if you don't have a battery charger like this and you have more than one vehicle, in other words, you're not driving your vehicle all the time, these things are definitely worth their weight in gold. Keep your vehicle that you're not driving charged up. Now, I will tell you, my experience has been with a car battery, which is lead acid battery, once it discharges completely, in other words, you have a dead battery and you can't start the car, you're probably going to have to buy a new battery. These things really don't like to be revived once they're dead, so keep it charged. This is unlike your cell phone or cordless phone or something where, you know, those like to be run down and recharged. These batteries like to be charged all the time, so don't let them run low. If you have an issue with your starter motor, that can be a little bit more complicated to diagnose. So basically, your starter is an electric motor that sits underneath the exhaust manifold here on the passenger side of the engine, at least on my year model. Your year model may be different. It's an electric motor that when you turn the key to start, it powers up and it spins a gear which turns the crankshaft, which allows the engine to start. So your starter itself could go bad internally in the starter and you just need to replace the starter. That's just a simple bolt-on replacement. Shouldn't take you a lot of time. Symptom for that could be that you hear what sounds like stripped gears spinning, or just hearing the motor spin but nothing's happening. However, if you turn your key and you don't hear anything happening, that's probably a relay, a solenoid, or a wiring problem, and that's going to require you to either just start replacing everything or get in with your multimeter and start testing different things to see, is there resistance on wires, is there power at certain locations, is there ground at certain locations. And it's probably going to require you to have a partner to crank the engine and stuff, because on your key there's off, there's accessory, there's run, and there's start. And start only provides power to certain things, and because you're going to need to test for start power on your starter, you're going to have somebody that's cranking the key, because the key won't stay in the start position. And that is why you can tell certain lights will turn off when you hit it start and then come back on when you hit it back to run or accessory, because accessory and run power are basically broader and they send power to more things. Start, there's limited things that it runs to. If you place your key in the ignition and you turn it to start and basically nothing happens and it's not dead battery or some other wiring problem, another possibility is that your shifter linkage is not sensing that the car is in park or neutral. And so what you might try to do is try to start it in neutral, or try jiggling the shifter and seeing if you can get it. If it starts in another gear, then it's obviously your transmission linkage being the issue. Hopefully your car is starting and running, because if you have a compression or timing problem that's keeping the car from running, that's probably way beyond most do-it-yourselfers' ability to fix. Because now you're talking about digging into the internals of the engine, or changing timing chains or things like that. And while certainly a do-it-yourselfer can handle those things if you have enough experience, if your experience is limited to changing oil and air filters and things like that, you're probably not going to be able to dig into the internals and come out of it with a fixed vehicle. So I'm really going to leave that part as far as what to do out of the video, because I don't even feel comfortable messing with a timing chain or removing pistons, that sort of thing. The farthest I've ever gotten is unbolting cylinder heads and putting them back on. So I have done that, but I didn't disassemble cylinder heads or anything like that. We were talking about needing air, fuel, spark, timing, and compression. Fuel could be your issue for not starting, although obviously it's possible to have clogged fuel injectors or something like that. I would think most likely to fail first would be your fuel pump. And when I've had fuel pumps fail in the past, the symptom has been the car starts, the car runs, you get to a stoplight and it starts stumbling and dying, and maybe it takes a long time to get it started again. Finally starts up, maybe runs a little bit, you keep your foot on the gas and it's barely running, that sort of thing. You disconnect the fuel line, it sprays fuel all over the place. You think, oh, the fuel pump's working fine. Well, probably not, and the reason is a dying fuel pump probably produces enough fuel pressure to spray it across the room or garage or wherever you're at, but not enough pressure to open up the fuel injectors. So if you've had a symptom like that where the car's running and dying and then running again, and maybe sometimes you almost need a tow to get home, that's probably a fuel pump. And like I was saying earlier with the fuel pump cutoff switch, fuel pumps just run constantly, and basically the gas comes up here into the fuel rails, and whatever's not sprayed into the cylinders goes back to the tank in constant loop, rather than what I'm sure a lot of people think, when you press the gas pedal, that doesn't make the fuel pump run faster or anything. And I'm not going to cover fuel pump replacement in this video. Thankfully, I haven't needed to do that yet. If I ever do, I'll shoot a video and show how it's done. So I know I haven't covered every possible thing that could keep your vehicle from starting and running, but I've hopefully covered the most common ones and the ones that are easiest for a do-it-yourselfer to fix. If you run across a problem that's not fixable by the things that I've mentioned, then it's probably not a do-it-yourselfer type thing, and you probably want to seek professional help at that point. Anyway, thank you for all the support y'all have given, and I will keep on putting out these videos and trying to help you with your do-it-yourself fixes on your vehicle.